All right, good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Low-Code Campfire for June 3rd, 2022. This is episode number 53, and this is Academically Speaking. My name is Dale Warner. I'm head of support for Plantain App, and glad to be with you. We've got several other Plantain App folks on the call today, and I'm sure we'll see that participating here as we go. Just to let you know, this is an event we do every Friday. It's a community gathering where we get together and share techniques, challenges, experiences, lots of times things that problems and issues that people using our products get solved in this call, or at least we come to know about new things that we need to address. So it's all skill levels welcome, but be ready to help with ideas and suggestions. Past episodes of this are all out on YouTube, and you can use that QR code, or it's also in the email that you receive from us to invite you to this. So feel free to look into the hours and hours of content that's already out there on our YouTube channel. This one is being recorded and it'll be out there in the next few days. We run a pretty informal agenda in this particular meeting. It is a meeting format, so anyone can speak, raise your hand, and get into the call. But we typically talk about whatever is hot and burning topics that are on your mind, and then we take a look at our communal Campfire website, any topics that were submitted in advance, and then after we go for an hour or so, we turn off the recording and go into our afterglow segment. That's just an opportunity to socialize a little bit, so feel free to stick around for that as well. By way of guidelines, if you're not talking, and especially if you have noise going on behind you, please mute and be courteous. It's a very good group, and we don't really have too much problems with guidelines. You can submit questions and topics in advance. There's again a QR code or links in the email, but if you put them if you submit them here, then we'll make sure they get into the presentation and we'll bring them up at some point in the hour. And with that, we'll do introductions and hello. And I want to put out a welcome to, we have some folks that are joining us for the first time today. This is the introduction meeting, the launch meeting. We're about to start up with Launch Code and the Low Code Academy starting Monday. And I'll invite Patrick to say a little bit more about what's going on with that invitation. But with these folks joining us for the first time, so we just want to say hello.
Yes, welcome to the launch coders that are on the call, and we're very happy you're here. Feel free to jump in and introduce yourself, and if not, it'd be great if some of the regular attendees would introduce themselves. And maybe just as a slight variation for today, if you can just introduce yourself and give a little idea of what you do with Plantain App, just very brief, but something along those lines.
So Patrick, I put a slide in there. We're gonna do.
Oh, you're okay.
To just say hello. Someone say hello.
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 I think we should advance one of our regular features to the beginning here, where we check. Ben, do you have a shirt for us today?
I do. You know, I won't disappoint.
Nice one.
Thank you, Ben. All right, and so to point out, we try to have a little bit of a geeky good time here as well. So thank you for doing that. Ben is known.
And Ben's shirts never disappoint.
That's correct. That's correct. Now there's pressure. We're going to have to give Ben a budget for his shirts.
Yeah.
All right.
Ben,
it is getting a little expensive.
Ben, I think you'd be happy to know that I watched Groundhog Day last night.
The ultimate recursion.
But Ben, I think you could wear this shirt multiple times.
Oh.
I think you could.
Oh.
All right. So I think our new people are starting to get a sense of who we are. So let's talk about Low Code Academy a little bit. And first of all, I just want to let everyone on the call know, we're going to do this for maybe the next 10 or 15 minutes, maybe, and then we're going to go back to our regularly scheduled program. So if you did show up today hoping to learn something or get some help with something, we're definitely going to get to that. But so, Launch Code and Low Code Academy, I mean, we at Plant an App are about trying to grow the community, grow the use of low code, and so we're involved in this initiative. And the hope is that this makes IT and development more accessible to people in general, and it's like every part of the spectrum, whether you are maybe a power business user, all the way to at the far end, if you're a full stack developer, there's a spot for you in low code, and so we're just hoping that you learn more about it and find your spot in it. So for those that are joining for the first time, is there anyone that would like to share your hopes for what you're hoping to get out of the Academy class as a whole, or just even a little bit? Share something about that. There is a slide that I skipped. It's when things get quiet, I start to sing, and you really don't want that to happen. Okay,
One thing I will let you know, you don't have to be shy around this group.
No, not at all.
Somebody break the ice.
Just curious for the launch coders, what kind of piqued your interest in taking this?
All right, let's try this crazy experiment on Zoom. Look and see if under the, I think it's under the More section. Let's see if anybody can find the raise your hand button. Is my mic working?
It is.
You're there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on
Under
reactions.
reactions.
I beat you, Ben.
Sure, got it.
Oh, I see hands. I see hands.
All right, well, so put them back down unless you really want to talk. And yes, Mark, thanks for the thumbs up as well. Okay.
Oh, wait, we have a brave one who raised their hand. Oh, never mind. They lowered it.
And also, if you want to put a comment in the chat as well, that's great too. That would so if you feel like you don't want to speak and you'd rather put it in the chat, that's good too. But if you want to speak, just unmute yourself and please let us know.
Okay. I think in which case I'm gonna go on to, we'll do first call. We'll do go about our normal business about what normally happens in this group. But for those that choose to ask, if you did bring up a question in our first call segment, if you'd also say who you are and how you're using low code, and I would appreciate that too. But we'll go right to first call. What's on your mind? Matthew, your hand is still up, so let's do that.
Oh, I just put it up. I have a question, and this
Yes,
is
sir.
to the group. It's a bit tangential. Does anybody use any business process modeling software capabilities? And if so, do you have any recommendations? I think I have my answer. Thank you.
And I'd also like just to reemphasize what you said, that for the regulars on the call, if anybody's willing to talk about your your journey in low code, what it is you do with Plantain App, anything along those lines. That would be great to help out the new people on the call. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kara. I see your comment there, and so you went. It looks like you went through our low code. You went through our course back before COVID, or some other low code course, but good. I hope you do transition into a new.
Yeah, that's the launch.
Yeah.
One of the initial launch code courses.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's really what we're trying to encourage, is people getting into a career. I think it can be.
Yeah, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to. Like Ben, Mark, Matthew, you want to? Yeah, you knew I was going to do it. You want to?
I was waiting.
Just give a little brief, like what do you do with Plantain App?
All right, I'll start. Probably a good thing to say is what don't I do? But I basically work for kind of like the education department for school districts. We're like the liaison. So I do a lot of data crunching, reporting. I've created numerous extracts, automated email systems, alert notifications, like I said, reports on screen for schools to look at, attendance tracking applications that literally processed about, in a space of a few months, maybe about 38 million records. I even most recently created tracking apps for time tracking, because that's one of the things we have to do here with different departments that we work for. We have to track down to the minute how much time we're spending on each project, as well as a new system that I just created that I was told I was responsible for now, which is tracking software versions for every single software application, operating system, and whatnot that I have on every one of my servers, to make sure that we are ready for auditing so that we can continue to be SOC compliant as we are. So I've used all of this is through Plantain App modules, and it's extremely diverse. And I just keep building more.
Any comment about doing it low code versus any other way? And I mean, does it make it easier, make it possible? What?
Well, I will say this. I started, before I was working with Plantain App, I used to be a module developer. Using the Plantain App modules cut down, let's just say for argument's sake, a simple application that could take 3 months down to maybe 4 or 5 days. So it is definitely much faster. It's nicer because it gives a consistent view and feel throughout all the applications that you create. As for low code, I'm a programmer, so I don't think I'll ever actually truly be low code. I always want to muck in and kind of
Get it your way.
expand things a little bit further. But in the grand scheme of things, like I said, these tools definitely make life much easier, much simpler, and much faster to develop things that you need.
And one more question, since you're on the hook here, is the I think there could be a criticism of low code to say that it might stifle a full developer, right? That if you can't do the thing that you want to do, then it's too small a box for you to play in. And just your thoughts on that.
I agree. There have been other tools that I've used, reporting tools and such that, they're drag and drop and things of that nature, where they literally box you in and you can only do what they allow you to do. What I love about Plantain App is that as you start, that's kind of the situation you're in. It's, you know, add fields, kind of drag and drop idea. It's very simplistic to make it easy and not overwhelming for the people coming in. But as you get better at it, you always have the ability to get under the hood and extend it even further, to really get in there and start creating much more customized things, whether it be through JavaScripting, jQuery, creating RazorScript tokens that utilize either C# or VB code. There is a lot that you can do. So it doesn't limit you in any real sense, because you always have that ability to go in there and go further.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Dale, I'd be willing to jump in. I'd be willing to jump in and expand on some stuff too that Ben just said.
Please.
I fell into Plantain App during COVID. I'm a software developer. I've got a comp sci degree as my background. But when the pandemic hit, people started tightening up their budgets. And so a Plantain App customer fell into my lap. And to be honest, as a software developer, I was like, I don't know about this low code stuff. Like, I write code. That's what I do. I sit in Visual Studio all day. And so I wasn't crazy about it, but I was crazy about the money. And so I started looking at it. And, you know, like Ben was saying, I mean, you can do anything you want. I think I've even gone deeper, and, you know, I've put together my own library of custom actions. So I've actually got my own actions that I've installed into Plantain App. And so when I'm putting together tasks, it makes things a lot easier for hitting proprietary systems and things like that, so that I can just use Visual Studio, you know, inherit from the Plantain App model, which the developers there have done an amazing job of making things extensible from that standpoint. They've done it exactly like I would have done it, so I approve of the way they've done it. And I wrote, you know, where the system isn't doing exactly what I want, and I don't want to use a Razor token to do it or something like that, because I don't want it to be as complex to the user. I just drop in my own custom action where the user can set a few properties. I just built one the other day that was find an entity list. So Plantain App has, you know, the whole concept of entity lists. And so I wrote an action where I can search for a specific property on objects in the entity list and pull back one. And it just makes it a lot easier for the user. So there's even that form of development where you're way down at the bits in Visual Studio building what you want. And as long as you have the right software licensing, you can install those actions right in, create your own data sources for pulling down data from other systems and things like that. So it really handles everything from the really hardcore developer to the developer that, you know, has a few, you know, he knows coding, but doesn't want to get into Visual Studio, like more of a scripting type developer, to someone who doesn't develop at all and, you know, just wants to drag and drop and do things from that standpoint. So I have noticed in the last month or so that when I start up a new project, however it is, my default now is starting to think of how I would implement this in Plantain App, as opposed to how I would implement this in ASP.NET or MVC or something like that, which scares me slightly, but I like that as well. So it's an interesting turn, but I noticed that the other day.
And when you say that, is it because you can get, I mean, it's about the speed or of getting that done versus, and not doing
I mean, it's to some aspects, yeah. There was a startup website that I was looking into, and I mean, there is the speed of getting things done. You're not worrying about user authentication, right? You're not creating a form from scratch. And I enjoy doing a lot of that stuff when I'm just writing software development, but from a business standpoint of getting something up to speed, I realize I sound like a sales pitch right now, which the Plantain App guys probably like. I'm not a sales pitch guy at all. So what I'm saying is the truth. It cuts away a lot of that fluff so that I can get a client something more beneficial, more usable, I should say, right out of the gate, and then start working on the logic that isn't boilerplate stuff. And there's so much, I mean, there's tons of things out there. You know, Microsoft's, you know, every release cycle has some boilerplate stuff that they're trying to do to get rid of that initial creation of forms and just the CRUD applications of read, write, and update. so that, you know, the bucks are getting spent on the stuff that can't be done easily out of the box.
And David, just one more question. Since I know a little bit about your background, this is a leading question. The people that you work for and with, as a full developer, you're kind of enabling them to go farther, right? You're doing the hard stuff, and then they're able to say integrate with another data source or something, and then it just becomes a simple action for them to take advantage of, right?
Yeah, I've kind of turned into second tier support when the obvious stuff isn't real easy. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're doing right now that we're realizing is creating custom tasks, and so they've got an external project management system, and part of their processes is creating to-do items and things off of triggers in the system. And so instead of using like the server request action and needing to plug in a bunch of, you know, hard-coded URLs and information like that, I've created custom tasks that work specifically with their project management system, and they drop in, you know, task name, task, who to assign it to. It's got drop downs that it pulls from the project management system, you know, the usernames of who to assign it to. And so I hand them that task and maybe a proof of concept of how to use it, and then they start using that everywhere, working it into their workflows and such for creating things in the system.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing a lot of the boilerplate stuff, and then once something gets maybe a little bit too technical in the weeds, or if one of these custom actions they need something added to it, then they get a hold of me.
Great, thank you. Someone else want to do a sales pitch or complain? We'll take it all. And I'm going to put it out there one more time for the new people. If there's someplace where you're trying to go and you want to ask the question, is this going to get you there? This is a great spot to do it.
This is Mark. I'm going to speak up for a second. You know, my background's a little bit different than the two that have spoken before, Ben and Dan or Dave.
Dave, yep.
You know, I do have some programming experience, but not really a lot. So it's more like I have an awareness of programming in Visual Studio. I've done some Hello World stuff. So when I think, can I build something? I'm really thinking, can I build it with a tool? And my tool is Plant an App. I realize that it's built on that other stuff, and if I really need help with that, I'm going to talk to Ben or Dave. But you know, to me, Plant an App is a lot more along the lines of, because of the tools and features and actions and workflows that are part of Plant an App, it allows me to create applications that I just plain would not have been able to create with my background skills, of which there are a few. So, you know, I'm strong with SQL Server. I got that. I do JavaScript, HTML, and really Plant an App means those skills are enough to do a complete application. So I haven't personally had the need to create my own actions thus far from scratch. So I guess I just wanted to encourage the new people. Hey, you know, this is really good stuff. You don't need those skills. That stuff is great when you have it, and you can add on to what Plant an App does when you need to do that. But most of the time, I haven't needed to do it. I create good-looking websites for churches and schools, and I implement Plant an App to add functionality that a website, you know, a brochure type website wouldn't ordinarily have. And that's getting ever more complicated, and Plant an App's up to the challenge. I also have a number of websites that really aren't related to that. They're replacing things out there in the world. Like I'm building something that's going to replace, in my mind, the need for Sign Up Genius. And it's a lot of stuff in there, and Plant an App is making it work. So so I'm thinking big, and I think that Plant an App's going to get me there. So yeah, I could do a sales pitch for Plantain App. I just wanted to encourage the new people. If you're thinking, oh, those guys know more than I do, well, they know more than me, but I don't feel held back.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
We have a question in the chat, Dale.
Yeah, so there was a question about launch code. I graduated from launch code in March, and the Salesforce track is Plantain App low code similar to Flow in Salesforce. So anybody know Flow in Salesforce and where we rank or how we compare? I admit to knowing just a very small fraction of what Salesforce can do, and I'm not familiar with Flow.
So I think the flow is just like you mentioned is one feature of Plantain App, so the ability to build business flows. But Plantain App, you see it's a lot more. You can also build the UI, you can build the data modeling as well. You can do the integration, you can configure search engines, you can build APIs. So it's much more comprehensive. But flows, business logic is it's a part of it.
And for those of you new to the call, Bogdan Latescu is our founder and CEO. And so thank you, Bogdan, for jumping in on that one.
Yeah, I have to study the competition.
Good. All right. All right. This is a good spot to, if you have a question, either on the chat or jump in and say hello, but this is a good spot to do that. And other than that, we're going to go back to our standard format and encourage you to hang around. So we'll leave another minute or two for that. Plus anybody else who wants to expand a little bit about how they've used the product. And
I'll raise my hand out here.
oh, lovely. Hi, Jim.
Hello. So I have a background as a programmer in the corporate world, and then many years ago went into consulting, and then about now 9 years ago bought a retail business that I run. And in the corporate world, we have big budgets and lots of tools to choose from. And what Plantain App is bringing to me in my small business is a lot of the ability to do the things that I have the same needs in my small business that the big corporations did, of integrating data and tracking customers and stuff. And I'm able to do it and tune it with Plantain App and have the workflows to do those functions that I would have taken months and months in the corporate world. I turn around in a few days for my team. So I have a staff now that can run my store and get information they need and integrate data from vendors and tie that to customer data and track customer orders and let them know when things come in. And it's just a large tool set that is affordable for a small business. Lots of people think it's big business, but from a small business side, it's become an invaluable tool for keeping our business going. So it lets us do fill the needs of that the big businesses have on a budget that we can afford.
So you're, just out of curiosity, I mean, since you came from that background, any thoughts about your journey? Did you were you excited when you learned about the product, or is it was it reluctant, or what's just any thoughts about your journey into it?
I found Plantain App actually before it was Plantain App, and from the D&M Sharp tool set, and was excited by that because my weakness was on the UI side of things, and it let me do that. And then when Plantain App came along with the workflows, and that was the change piece for me, because that let me tie my business processes together. So and simplify them for the team. So I don't have to worry about something not getting done in a series of steps for people to click on forms and things like that. So as far as the going through it, I mean, there's the other nice thing, and this is more of a Plantain app than a low code feature, is the team and the group here is very responsive to help. So even though I'm a small business, the getting bogged in to come in and weigh in on an idea, or any of the other developers and stuff to do that and have access to them is something I've never had in the corporate world. So that's my experience.
Well, thanks for that. Okay, so we're still on first call. Is there anybody that showed up today with trying to get something solved in low code? You need a thought to help with. All right, I'm just going to move on. We have, there was a question, and I don't think I've seen Peter today, but there was a question about, we have a feature called listings, where data is displayed, selected out of a data source and then displayed on a listing. And the question was about whether or not things could be displayed with pre-selection. We have the ability to select records for additional processing, checkbox kind of functionality. But I was wondering, I'm not familiar. I don't know that I've ever seen this done, and it sounds like a good feature, but I don't know that it's built in. Somebody know more about this than I do?
I saw that question, Dale, earlier, and I was wondering if I didn't really get a chance to expand on this idea at all, but I was wondering if it could be accomplished in the initialization script that you have in the advanced settings of the listing.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something that could potentially be incorporated there.
So I take it too from, it's not a built-in feature that you're.
No, certainly not that I'm aware of.
Does that seem like something that would be useful to anybody as a use case, to be able to have your, you've got 7 records that come in, and you've got 2 that are already checked for additional processing because they're some data characteristic that said that you wanted to pre-select them, and then let the user select more before they hit a button for processing. Okay, well, nobody's screaming.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Svetlana, and actually it's really interesting feature to me, because my husband's working as an attorney, and he was asking me the other day, can you do something like this? Like, can you make the feature or application or something which allow me to check the records and display it as a listing?
Yep.
So it seems like that's he was asking me, and I was thinking about it, how I can do it.
With so our build. Go ahead.
So basically, he didn't explain it very deeply, but what I understood, he wants to have a button, for example, open folder, and he goes to the folder which a bunch of the stuff in there, and he's checking by himself what he actually needs, and he checked everything, and those papers, those documents display in Excel listing or other listing in as a table, I guess. As an Excel, yeah, the Excel table. So he can see it in the screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I can ask clarification.
it would be
It feels
good.
like seems like that's what he was asking for.
Yeah.
It
So-
sounds like you have a suggestion for your first project already.
Yeah.
Yes, this is exactly the kind of stuff you learn to build with PlantaNet, and it sounds like even an easier application. So probably you'll be able to do this in the first 3 weeks.
Absolutely. And yep, so Jim has commented that about using JavaScript to go through and go through the rows and select them using JavaScript. And you probably could. I don't know enough about JavaScript to get that done, but yeah, it seems like a totally possible thing as far as having them pre-selected. Just to clarify, we are handling the selection part very, very well. It's the pre-selection that we're talking about now. So I absolutely agree with Bogdan that you're going to learn how to do this, Svetlana. Cool. So moving on from that, I'll mention that there is a Campfire website, and I'm actually going to jump out now and go do that. So the website becomes available to people who are participating in this call and who have some techniques that they've developed to be able to contribute to it or to learn from it. And so what we do is, there is a new one. Thank you, Ben. So now we're going to have to review this. I didn't see this till today. So somebody who's developed a technique has actually put it into this common website that anybody can get into and look behind the scenes and see how it was developed. And so if you're trying to do something just from a technique standpoint, how to, this is a good way to learn how to do it, learn how things, some of the ideas are very simple, some of them are very complex. So let's dig into to this one.
Yeah, you could thank Patrick for that. That was his question, and you know me, dog with a bone. I had to figure it out.
So remove the first blank entry in a list of drop-downs. So help me understand what was.
So basically, when you add a drop-down to an action form, the very first item is always a blank entry, and then it's preceded or followed by all of the entries that you add into the list. So when you first log in and into that form, the very first item that's selected, if you haven't given it a default value, is always going to be that blank entry. It also allows you, once an item is selected, to always go back and select a blank entry. And in the case for Patrick, selecting a blank entry was actually causing an issue with the calculation. And it was causing the math to go bonkers and end up with a ridiculous number. So his question was if anyone knew of a way to remove the very first blank entry item so that he didn't have to go and jump through hoops to try to recalculate his numbers and avoid people from clicking a blank entry. So that's where this came up.
For context, my solution was to put a JavaScript that basically, if you choose the blank option, you automatically get the first option. It would just, you choose the blank option and the field automatically fills with the first option instead of the blank one. And but this is what Ben has solved here, is not having to do that.
So I'm going to make a quick change to this just so that I can illustrate for my purposes that, okay, and we'll clean this up a little bit, but this is a drop down where the script hasn't been applied. And so we have a blank item first, second, third. And this blank item was the troublesome one, right?
Right.
That is correct.
So this one has it removed, and so it's this is the script that gets rid of it. Well, that's an easy.
Yep.
Very cool. Thank you. Yep.
Workaround. So for
Where does that script get hooked into which part of the dropdown?
It doesn't. If you look at the directions at the top, it's actually part of the form. So you would go into the advanced settings area, and there's an initialization script. You paste that script, and I even gave you a little button to copy the script, so you don't have to actually highlight and copy. So right there, you just paste the script in there. And what you would do is when you call that function, that's copy to clipboard. If you scroll down a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one. Remove blank entry. When you call that, you'll see that next to it, it says control name. That's the only parameter you have to give it, the name of the dropdown, the ID that it's given. So when you call that, if you scroll a little further down, you'll see that's the piece right there. That calls it, and it says my dropdown sample. That's the name of my dropdown. So you just add all of your dropdown names in there that you want to have those first items removed. When the form first loads, it's the first thing it does is it removes those first entries.
So this drop down was defined and is defined as a normal setup where we provided the list of items, but then that additional JavaScript gets rid of the default behavior of a blank item. I'm going to maybe, and forgive me if I'm overstepping here and messing with your contribution, but this default dropdown would just kind of illustrate the problem, and I'm going to we'll add some text here to it. And for our launch coders, this kind of illustrates how it's easy to drag things around and let's see if that text highlight, does that text show? Oh, okay. So we'll, but this shows the problem and the solution. Cool.
So I have a question. That's for one entry, my drop-down sample. How would you, let's say I had in this case multiple drop-downs on the same page, how would you take that code and accommodate the other drop-down?
I had mentioned that if you look at that black box right there in front of you, you don't have to actually do that, Dale.
Well, I'm having fun with this now. This is a default dropdown is the name of it, right? So let's see if I can get this right. We go into our advanced script here and say the same thing.
So just add multiple copies of that one line there with the form field name in there.
Correct.
Okay.
So once he does that and saves it, then reloads, you'll see that the item gets removed from that one as well.
There you go.
So Ben, this is the whole point of this Campfire website. Ben has made it very easy to solve a particular problem.
And at least this way, it allows you to have both functionalities. So if it's just one particular dropdown that you want to remove that from, you can affect just one without having to touch any of the others. But it gives you the flexibility to do multiples as well.
Now, I assume this would also work with, I don't know what, like a SQL lookup to populate the dropdown. Does that exhibit the same issue? And then the follow-on, would this also fix that problem for a SQL-driven dropdown?
Yeah, it shouldn't make a difference because all it's doing is once the document is loaded, because you'll see it says document ready. So once the form finishes loading and it's ready, that all the data was loaded, that's when it's going to go in and remove the first item. So regardless of where the data source is coming from, it's just looking at the control, the drop down itself, and just saying, hey, that first item, which is a blank, get rid of it.
Got it. Thank you.
So if this is changing the topic a little bit, but that document ready function, so if it's all loaded, SQL's all run, ready to display the customer, then you could use that same position, that document ready, to do other things like not let a control be active until everything else is loaded on the form. You know, we have a grid that loads and it looks like it's ready to go before all the other things that it needs are ready.
I'm not exactly 100% sure regarding the timing of this one, but if I'm not mistaken, this won't hit until the document is complete and the document is ready. So in your situation, I don't think that would make an effect because this would still run after the fact.
Okay. All right, because you're doing this inside a form, so this only relates to the form really being ready anyway.
Right. So when the form is complete and everything was loaded, this automatically, the document ready fires. And then even at that point, as you could see, I put a timeout of 1/4 of a second just to be 100% sure that everything is completely rendered before I go ahead and I make my change. But as you could see, it's instantaneous.
Right. Thanks, Ben.
Okay. Very cool. So thanks for contributing that. And you know, it's an interesting thing that just happened. It was mentioned last week in Campfire, and as Ben says, it was dog with a bone. How do we solve that? And so here come right back. So we appreciate that. Software, not exactly while you wait, but a week. That's very nice.
And by the way, Ben came back with that solution the same day.
It was
Says
actually
it in
like
email to me.
it was like 20 minutes after the Campfire ended.
Yeah.
I just wasn't fast enough.
Ben needs a bigger bone.
I'm halfway through listening to last week's Campfire. You guys are great at 2 times speed. It's that's how I listen to the YouTube. Anyway, sounds like it was a pretty active week last week. Good. Anyone with any ghost stories? This is, sometimes we chase things that are elusive in low code, trying to figure out a way to do things, and they're hard to do, or things that you struggle with, and then it's like, aha. And anyway, this is a spot to talk about those. We're also, I'm guilty of stretching the metaphor for a campfire just as far as I can. Okay, there was a great question and good answers on the chat about whether you need, how deep do we need to go into JavaScript, and particularly talking about having, for me, talking about having the SQL experience. That's like a really great starting spot, because there's so much of this that has where you're typically drawing on SQL, whether when you create an entity within Plantain app, it's creating a SQL table, you're interacting with SQL. So it's really a very good starting spot. I manage, just on a personal basis to JavaScript, I manage to not know it very well, but I can, for the few things that I want to get done in that, I can hack my way in and do it, usually with the help of the information that shows up here in Campfire, using the suggestions that come in. Let's see.
Can I ask a quick question, Dale?
Please.
This is Don. Hi, everybody. Just in how to use the contributions page and look at the underlying code, and just confused as to how many different logins we have here. So if you go to Plantain app and you go into your account, is that a different login than if you go into Campfire or you go into Community or et cetera, et cetera. So you just need to maintain multiple accounts for each.
Yeah, and the Campfire website is not part of our single sign-on scheme, and I would say intentionally so. We really want to limit this to people who come and participate in this call and who specifically request access, because just we've started small, and we operate on kind of a sense of trust, right? When you get into this, you have the ability to get in and open up the forms and see things and potentially make changes. So we're not opening up to people who aren't participating, but yeah, it's a separate login. And if you want in on it and you send me your email, we'll add you, but you have to promise to be nice. That's the plan.
I promise.
Are you not in this one? Are you asking to be in it?
You know what? I thought I was, and yet, I'm using, my password vault, and I'm not seeing an entry for it specifically. So maybe and I do recall going in somewhere, and it might have been the community.planet app, where it screwed up my other account. I think that's what happened. At any rate, I wasn't sure how many different accounts I actually have. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So I did find you are part of this one. I'm going to send you click the send password reset link. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, well I could do that. I didn't realize that that was the issue.
Just set it's your I think your standard email.
Sure. So it's Don at Sprocket websites. I'm sure that's what it is. So
that's what it is. So
I'll go do that. Thank you. That clears it up. And then the other ones as well. So how many different ones are there? Is there single sign-in except for Campfire?
That's my understanding. That yes.
Okay.
The main thing, it's handled at console, and then you can use that to sign on to, for example, the community. And so this should be the exception.
Got it. Okay, good.
I think the community portal is also still not integrated. I think it's on our roadmap to do it, but all the other systems are single sign-in.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't know until you get there and then realize you can't get in. So that's why I was wondering.
And all right. Good. Anything else? Anyone else with?
There is a question in the chat about where to find the Campfire website, if you want to post that link.
Sure, I'll do it. Whoop. It's campfire.plantenapp.com. Lots of them show up that way, but I'll put it here to everyone. You can grab it. And so you can, whether or not you're joined into it, you can see the contributions that other people have made. When you come back and you're part of the Campfire group, you'll be an opportunity to send me your email address, and we'll get it. You can get added to it if you, again, promise to take the pledge.
One last thing about the
yes, sir.
Forgetting the password. There's an error on the form. I don't know what the problem is, but give it a try. I did the forgot password. It says, what's your email? I put in my email, reset password, and then I get there was an error with the form. Please contact the administrator. So here I am contacting the administrator.
Okay. Tell you what, Don, I'll get to the bottom of that. And in the meantime, we'll also get you set up, make sure the password gets through. So I'll get right on that after this meeting.
No worries.
All right. So we've got about 5 more minutes to our regular session. Anyone inspired to ask final questions? Thanks, Matt. All right. So thank you for everyone for welcoming our launch coders to Campfire. I suspect there will be more questions and possibly some participation in the weeks to come. I think it's about an 8-week or so course. We're holding office hours for the launch coders, so a lot of those will be directed off to that. But consider this another resource for general questions on, I mean, not course specific things, but general questions about low code and plant an app and what can you do with it and have you thought of and whatever. So good. Then we'll do last call here. We'll do this again next Friday, June 10th, same hours. And thank you for joining.